The black Tesla sat at the curb like a promise, and Maya Patterson didn't hesitate. Her phone had died 30 seconds after reading the text. Black Tesla, 7:45, driver will take you to the restaurant. And now she was operating on faith and desperation. She yanked open the passenger door, slid into the seat, and exhaled for what felt like the first time all day. "Thank God you're here," she said, buckling her seatbelt. "I'm Maya. Sorry I look like I just survived a tornado. Today was absolutely brutal, and my phone died, and I'm already dreading this whole thing, but let's just get there before I change my mind, okay?" The man behind the wheel turned to look at her. Dark hair, sharp jawline, casual jacket that had probably cost less than her monthly coffee budget. He opened his mouth, closed it, then he smiled. "Sure," he said. "Buckle up." Hey everyone, before we dive into today's story, I have a quick favor to ask. If you're enjoying these emotional journeys we share, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a new video. It's free, it takes 2 seconds, and it truly helps us keep bringing you stories like this one. Also, drop a comment below and tell us, where are you watching from today? Your city, your country, we'd love to know. Thank you so much for being here. Now, let's get back to Maya and the decision that's about to change everything. Nathan Reed had been sitting in his car for exactly 4 minutes when the woman appeared. He'd been early, a habit he couldn't break even 3 years after selling his company, and was answering emails while waiting for his friend Marcus to come downstairs. The dinner reservation wasn't until 8:30, and Marcus was chronically late, so Nathan had settled in with his phone and a podcast. Then the door opened, and a whirlwind in a navy blue dress collapsed into his passenger seat. For a split second, Nathan froze. His brain scrambled to catch up with what was happening. She thought he was someone else. She thought he was her driver. The words were already forming, "I think there's been a mistake," when she turned to him with eyes that held the particular exhaustion of someone who'd been holding it together by sheer force of will. "I'm Maya," she repeated, as if he might have missed it the first time. "And I know you probably think I'm insane, but I promise I'm normally much more put together. It's just been one of those days where everything that could go wrong did, and now my best friend has set me up on a blind date with someone she swears is perfect for me, which is code for rich and boring, and—" She stopped abruptly. "Sorry, you don't need my life story. The restaurant is Marcello's on 5th Street. Do you know it?" Nathan knew it. He'd been planning to eat there himself in about 45 minutes. "I know it," he said. "Great, thank you. Seriously, you're a lifesaver." She leaned back against the seat and closed her eyes, and Nathan made a decision that was either incredibly stupid or the best impulse he'd had in years. He put the car in drive and pulled away from the curb. The first 2 minutes passed in silence. Nathan kept his eyes on the road, acutely aware of the woman beside him. She smelled like coffee and something floral, and her breathing was just starting to slow down from whatever chaos had preceded this moment. He should tell her. He should pull over right now and explain that she'd gotten into the wrong car, that he wasn't her ride, that this was all a bizarre misunderstanding. But he didn't. "Long day?" he asked instead. Maya laughed, a short, sharp sound. "Is it that obvious?" "You did mention the tornado." "Right." She opened her eyes and glanced at him. "Sorry for unloading. I'm sure you hear that all the time in your line of work, people treating drivers like therapists." "I don't mind," Nathan said, and realized with some surprise that he meant it. "What happened?" She studied him for a moment, as if trying to decide whether to answer. Then something in her expression softened. "It's everything and nothing. You know how some days just pile up? I've been working on this campaign for 3 months. I'm a marketing director, and today the client decided they want to completely change direction, which means we're starting over with 2 weeks until launch. My assistant quit this morning because apparently I'm difficult to work with, which might be fair, actually, And then my best friend cornered me at lunch and insisted I needed to put myself out there again. So she set up this blind date, and I agreed because I was too tired to argue. And now I'm sitting in a stranger's car complaining about my life." She paused. "This is not how I wanted this evening to go." "What did you want?" Nathan asked. The question seemed to catch her off guard. "What? How did you want the evening to go?" Maya was quiet for a moment. They stopped at a red light, and Nathan glanced over to find her looking at him with an expression he couldn't quite read. "You know what?" she said slowly. "I don't think anyone's asked me that in a really long time. Everyone asks what I'm doing or what I'm working on or what I've accomplished lately, but no one asks what I actually want. So, what do you want?" She turned to look out the window. The city moved past them in streaks of light and shadow, Friday evening coming alive with people heading toward their own plans, their own stories. "Honestly, I want to go home, put on sweatpants, and watch something mindless on TV. I want to order Thai food and not think about work or dating or whether I'm living the right kind of life. I want one evening where I don't have to perform." "Then why are you going to this dinner?" "Because I said I would. Because my friend means well. Because it's easier to show up than to explain why I don't want to go." Nathan understood that more than she knew. He'd spent the last 3 years navigating the strange territory between who he was, the driven founder working 100-hour weeks, and who he was now, a man with more money than purpose and no idea what came next. The public appearances, the charity dinners, the constant requests for his time and opinion and investment, it was all performance, all the time. "For what it's worth," Nathan said, "Thai food and sweatpants sounds like a pretty good evening." Maya laughed again, but this time it was genuine. "Right? But instead I get to make small talk with someone my friend thinks is perfect for me because he drives a Tesla and works in finance." Nathan's hands tightened almost imperceptibly on the steering wheel. "Maybe he'll surprise you." "Maybe," but she didn't sound convinced. Though, in my experience, the perfect ones are usually perfectly boring. All the right credentials, none of the actual substance. They want someone successful who looks good at dinner parties and doesn't ask too many questions about what success actually costs. "That sounds specific." "That sounds specific. My last boyfriend," she admitted. 2 years of being with someone who loved my resume more than he loved me. When we broke up, he said, and I quote, "You're great on paper, Maya, but you're exhausting in person." She shook her head. "The worst part is he wasn't entirely wrong. I am exhausting. I ask too many questions. I care too much about things that don't matter. I can't just relax and enjoy things without analyzing them to death." "Those don't sound like flaws," Nathan said quietly. "No?" She turned to look at him again. "Then why do I keep hearing it?" "Maybe you're hearing it from the wrong people." The words hung in the air between them. Maya stared at him for a long moment, and Nathan felt something shift, some invisible line being crossed. This wasn't just a stranger venting to someone she thought was her driver. This was a real conversation, the kind he hadn't had in longer than he could remember. "You're a better conversationalist than most of my actual dates," Maya said, and there was surprise in her voice, as if she hadn't meant to say it out loud. Nathan smiled. "I'll take that as a compliment." "It is one." She leaned back again, but this time she seemed more relaxed. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Do you like your job, driving people around?" The question was innocent, but it landed like a weight. Nathan kept his eyes on the road. "It has its moments." "That's a diplomatic answer." "It's an honest one. Some drives are just drives, but sometimes you meet someone interesting and it makes the whole thing worthwhile." "Smooth," Maya said, but she was smiling. "Do you always charm your passengers, or am I special?" "You're definitely special," Nathan said, and meant it more than she could possibly know. They were only 2 blocks from the restaurant now. Nathan could see it up ahead, the warm lights spilling onto the sidewalk, the valet stand where he would have to stop. His window for explaining was closing rapidly, and he still hadn't found the right words. "Listen, I should probably tell you—" "Oh God, we're here already?" Maya sat up straight, checking her reflection in the side mirror. "Okay, how do I look? Be honest." She looked beautiful. Tired, yes, and slightly frazzled, but there was something magnetic about her, an aliveness that made it impossible to look away. "You look great," Nathan said. "Liar, but thank you." She took a deep breath. "Okay, I can do this. It's just dinner. How bad can it be?" Nathan pulled up to the valet stand. This was it. He had to tell her now. "Maya—" But before he could finish, the passenger door flew open. A man in an expensive suit appeared, leaning down with a smile that was too wide, too practiced. "Maya, there you are. Come on, we've got a reservation, and I'm starving." The man, her date presumably, didn't even glance at Nathan. He just reached in, took Maya's arm, and practically pulled her out of the car. "Wait, I need to—" Maya looked back at Nathan, fumbling in her purse. "How much do I owe you?" "Nothing," Nathan said quickly. "It's covered." "Are you sure? Maya, come on." Her date was already walking toward the restaurant entrance. She threw Nathan one last apologetic look, then hurried after him. Nathan watched her go, watched the glass doors close behind them, and sat frozen in his car as the valet approached his window. "Will you be staying, sir?" Nathan should leave. He should drive away, chalk this up to a strange but ultimately meaningless encounter, and go meet Marcus like he'd planned. Instead, he heard himself say, "Actually, yes, I have a reservation. Reed, party of 1." The valet looked momentarily confused. Most people didn't valet and then walk in separately, but he simply nodded and handed Nathan a ticket. Nathan walked into Marcello's, was shown to a small table in the corner, and ordered a scotch he didn't really want. From where he sat, he couldn't see Maya, but he couldn't stop thinking about her either, about the way she'd opened up to a stranger because she thought it didn't matter, because she thought he was just a driver who would forget her when she walked away, about the exhaustion in her voice when she talked about performing, about being great on paper but exhausting in person. He understood that feeling more than she knew. Nathan pulled out his phone and texted Marcus. "Sorry, something came up. Rain check?" The reply came immediately. "You better not be working." "I'm not," Nathan typed back. "I'm doing something stupid." Finally, Marcus responded. "It's about time." Maya had been on bad dates before. She'd sat through dinners with men who talked exclusively about themselves, who checked their phones every 5 minutes, who treated waitstaff like they were invisible. She'd perfected the art of the polite smile, the interested nod, the carefully timed bathroom escape. But Mark, her perfect blind date, was setting new records. "So then I told them, if you can't handle my trading strategy, find another fund," he was saying, gesturing with his fork. He'd been talking for 15 straight minutes about his job in finance, pausing only to order the most expensive wine on the menu without asking what she preferred. The thing about wealth management is that most people don't understand the risk-reward ratio, but when you're playing at my level— Maya nodded automatically. Her mind had drifted somewhere around minute 7, and now she was thinking about the driver, Nathan. She'd caught his name on the reservation list when they walked in, when Mark had loudly announced their arrival to the hostess. Except Nathan wasn't here for them. He'd been early for his own reservation, hadn't he? Which meant— Her stomach dropped. Oh, God, she hadn't been in her rideshare. She'd gotten into some random person's car and demanded he drive her across town. And he'd done it. He'd driven her here, listened to her complain about her entire life, asked thoughtful questions, and made her feel more seen in 10 minutes than Mark had in the last 20. She'd basically carjacked someone and then ditched him without so much as a proper thank you. "Are you even listening?" Mark's voice cut through her thoughts. Maya refocused. Sorry, what? He sighed, the long-suffering sigh of someone who was used to people failing to appreciate his genius. I was saying that my portfolio has outperformed the market by 18% this quarter. 18%, Maya. That's the kind of success that separates the players from the pretenders. Mm-hmm. Maya reached for her wine glass and found it empty. Mark's was still full. He'd been too busy talking to drink, but he didn't offer to pour her more. Your friend said you work in marketing? He said, making it sound like a question even though it wasn't. That's nice. Good for you. Must be very creative. The way he said creative made it sound like a consolation prize. I'm going to use the restroom, Maya announced, standing before she could talk herself out of it. Sure. Don't be long, though. I was about to tell you about my new Porsche. Maya walked toward the back of the restaurant, but instead of turning right toward the bathrooms, she kept going straight toward the lobby. She needed air. She needed space. She needed to figure out how she was going to survive the next hour without screaming. And then she saw him. Nathan was standing near the bar, holding a glass of scotch and looking at his phone. He'd taken off his jacket, and in the warm light of the restaurant, she could see him properly for the first time. Tall, lean, probably mid-30s. There was something about the way he held himself, comfortable but not arrogant, present but not performing, that made her feel like gravity had shifted slightly. He looked up. Their eyes met. Oh my God, Maya said, crossing the space between them in 4 long strides. You're here. I am so sorry. I just realized, back in the car, you weren't actually my driver, were you? Nathan's expression was somewhere between amused and guilty. No, I wasn't. Why didn't you say something? I tried. You were moving very fast. I commandeered your car. Technically, yes. Maya covered her face with her hands. This is mortifying. I basically carjacked you and then made you listen to my entire life crisis. I didn't mind, said Nathan, and something in his voice made her lower her hands. Actually, that might have been the most interesting conversation I've had in months. Now you're just being nice. I'm really not. They stood there in the lobby, the noise of the restaurant humming around them. Maya could feel something happening, some kind of recognition she couldn't quite name. So if you weren't my driver, she said slowly, who are you? Just someone who's really glad you got in the wrong car. The words hung between them, charged with possibility. How's your date going? Nathan asked. Maya laughed, but there was no humor in it. Remember when I said you were better than most of my dates? I should have just stayed in the car and kept driving. That bad? He's been talking about his portfolio for 20 minutes. I don't think he's asked me a single question about myself. Nathan glanced toward the dining room, though they couldn't see Maya's table from here. The guy in the expensive suit who pulled you out of the car like you were cargo? That's the one. He seems, Nathan paused diplomatically, like exactly the kind of person my friend thought would be perfect for me, Maya finished, because he's successful and drives a Tesla and checks all the boxes that are supposed to matter. Do they? Matter to you, I mean? The question was simple, but it felt important. Maya thought about the driver, no, about Nathan, and how he'd asked what she wanted, not what she should want. How he'd listened without trying to fix anything or impress her or prove something about himself. No, she said quietly, they really don't. Nathan set his glass down on a nearby table. I have a table for one. It's quiet in the corner. The view isn't great, but the company would be better. Maya's heart did something complicated in her chest. Are you asking me to ditch my blind date and have dinner with you instead? I'm saying you shouldn't have to spend your evening with someone who makes you feel like you're exhausting, especially when you're not. You don't know that. Maybe I am exhausting. Then exhaust me, Nathan said simply. I'll take that over boring any day. Maya looked back toward the dining room. where Mark was probably still talking about his Porsche to her empty chair. She thought about her friend's well-meaning but misguided attempt at matchmaking. She thought about all the right choices she'd made in her life, all the boxes she'd checked, all the versions of success she'd achieved that had left her feeling hollow. And then she thought about 10 minutes in a car with a stranger who'd made her feel more like herself than she had in months. "Okay," she said. "Okay?" "Yes, let's have dinner, but first I need to do the mature, responsible thing and tell Mark I'm leaving." "Do you want backup?" Maya smiled. "I think I can handle it." She walked back to the table, where Mark was indeed still talking, this time to a passing waiter about wine pairings. He barely looked up when she approached. "Mark," she said, cutting through his monologue, "this isn't working." He blinked. "What?" "This. Us. This date. I appreciate that my friend set this up, but I don't think we're a good match." "Are you serious right now?" He looked genuinely confused, as if it had never occurred to him that she might not be having the time of her life. "I was just about to order for us." "Please don't. I'm going to go. I hope you have a good evening." She didn't wait for his response. She turned and walked back toward the lobby, her heart pounding, feeling like she'd just done something either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. Nathan was waiting where she'd left him, and when he saw her face, his expression shifted into something warm and a little bit proud. "How did it go?" "I think I might have just burned a bridge with my best friend's judgment in men," Maya said, "but it felt amazing." "Then it was worth it." They were shown to Nathan's table, tucked away in a corner with soft lighting and a view of the kitchen rather than the dining room. It was intimate without being romantic, casual without being careless. Perfect, actually. The waiter appeared with menus. "Can I start you with something to drink?" Maya ordered wine. Nathan ordered another scotch, and when they were alone again, they looked at each other across the small table and started laughing. "This is insane," Maya said. "I don't even know your last name." "Reed. Nathan Reed." "Maya Patterson." She held out her hand formally. "Nice to actually meet you." He shook it, and neither of them let go immediately. "So, now that we're starting over, tell me something real." "Something real?" "Something you wouldn't tell someone you were trying to impress." Maya thought about it. "Okay, I'm scared that I've built a life that looks perfect from the outside, but feels empty on the inside, and I don't know how to fix it without dismantling everything I've worked for." Nathan didn't look shocked or uncomfortable. He just nodded, like she'd said something that made perfect sense. "Your turn," Maya said. "I'm scared that I already did that, dismantled everything, and I still don't know what comes next." "What did you dismantle?" He hesitated, and you could see him deciding something. "I built a company from nothing, poured everything into it for 10 years, and then I sold it, and everyone said, 'Congratulations, you won, you made it,' but I just felt empty, like I'd climbed to the top of a mountain and realized there was nothing there." "What kind of company?" "Tech, software infrastructure. Not exciting, but necessary." "And now?" "Now I'm trying to figure out what matters when you can do anything, but nothing feels necessary anymore." The waiter returned with their drinks, and they ordered food without really looking at the menus. When he left, Maya raised her glass. "To wrong cars and empty mountains," Maya said. "To finding better questions," Nathan countered. They clinked glasses and drank, and Maya felt something settle in her chest, a feeling she couldn't name but recognized as important. If you're still with us, drop a comment and tell us, have you ever made a split-second decision that changed your life? We'd love to hear your stories. And stick around because Maya and Nathan's night is just getting started. The conversation flowed like water finding its level. They talked about work, about the pressure of other people's expectations, about the strange loneliness of being successful in ways that's supposed to matter. Nathan told her about growing up in a small town and building his first website at 14. Maya told him about her childhood dream of being a writer and how she'd convinced herself marketing was close enough. "Why not right now?" Nathan asked. "Because I'm 32 and successful, and you don't just throw that away to chase a dream you had when you were 12. "Why not?" The question was so simple it almost hurt. "Because that's not how life works," Maya said. But as she said it, she heard how hollow it sounded. According to who? She opened her mouth to answer and realized she didn't have one, not a real one, just a collection of assumptions and fears dressed up as wisdom. Their food arrived and they ate slowly, neither of them in a hurry for the evening to end. Maya found herself studying Nathan in the gaps between conversation, the way he listened with his whole attention, the way he asked questions that went beneath the surface, the way he seemed genuinely interested in her answers. "Can I ask you something?" Maya said, setting down her fork. "Always. Why didn't you correct me right away, in the car? You could have told me I'd made a mistake as soon as I got in." Nathan was quiet for a moment. "Honestly, I don't know. It happened so fast, and you seemed so stressed, and I didn't want to embarrass you. And then you started talking, and I—" He paused. "You treated me like a regular person. No performance, no agenda, just real. And I realized I couldn't remember the last time that happened." "What do you mean?" He met her eyes. "People treat you differently when they know certain things about you. Your job, your money, your success. They either want something from you, or they're intimidated by you, or they're trying to impress you. But you didn't know any of that. You just talked to me like I was human." "You are human." "I know, but it's easy to forget that when everyone's treating you like an ATM or a trophy or a networking opportunity." Maya understood that more than he knew. "So when I got in your car ranting about my life, you decided to just go with it?" "I decided to see where it went, and I'm glad I did." "Even though I basically kidnapped you?" "Best kidnapping of my life." They smiled at each other across the table, and Maya felt something shift again, something that felt like falling, but in a good way, like diving into deep water. "I should probably know more about you than just your name and your existential crisis," she said. "Tell me something else, something true." Nathan considered this. "I'm not good at this." "At what?" "This. Dating, meeting people, being vulnerable. I spent so long building something that I forgot how to just be." "I don't believe that. You've been nothing but present all evening." "With you, it's easy," he said. "I think that might be the problem." "Why is that a problem?" "Because easy is terrifying, because I don't know how to do this without messing it up." Maya reached across the table and put her hand over his. "What if we both just agree to be terrible at this together?" Nathan laughed, and the sound was like relief. "That might be the best offer I've had in years." They finished dinner slowly, neither one wanting the evening to end. When the check came, there was a brief, playful argument about who would pay. Nathan insisted. Maya protested. He won by signing the bill while she was in the bathroom. "That was sneaky," she said when she returned. "I kidnapped you." "Semantics." They walked out of the restaurant together into the cool night air. The city was alive around them, Friday night in full swing, but Maya felt like they were in their own bubble, separate from everything else. "Where are you parked?" she asked. "Valet. You?" "I took a—" She paused, realizing. "I took you. My phone's still dead. I don't even know how I'm getting home." "I could drive you, for real this time, no mistaken identity." Maya looked at him, at this man she'd known for barely 3 hours, and made another impulsive decision. "Okay," she said, "but this time I'm sitting in the front seat." They waited for the valet to bring Nathan's car around. When it pulled up, the same black Tesla from earlier, Maya couldn't help but laugh. "I really did think you were my driver." "I know. Your car is really nice for a—" She stopped. "Wait, what do you actually do? You said tech, but—" "I'll tell you," Nathan said, "but not tonight. Tonight, let's just be two people who had dinner. Everything else can wait." There was something in his voice that made her curious, but also made her trust him. Whatever he wasn't saying, he'd tell her when the time was right. "Okay," she agreed, "but you have to promise to tell me eventually." "I promise." They got in the car, Maya in the passenger seat this time, a full participant rather than an accidental hitchhiker. She gave him her address, and they drove through the city with the windows down and the radio playing something soft and instrumental. "Can I ask you something else?" Maya said as they merged onto the highway. "You can ask me anything." "Do you do this often, meet women under random circumstances and take them to dinner?" "Never," Nathan said, and he sounded almost surprised by it. "I don't actually meet people much anymore. Most of my social life is obligatory." Obligatory. Charity dinners, board meetings, events where everyone's networking and no one's actually connecting. That sounds lonely. "It is," he admitted. "I didn't realize how lonely until tonight, when I remembered what it felt like to actually talk to someone." They drove in comfortable silence for a while. Maya watched the city lights blur past and felt something unfamiliar settling over her. Contentment. She wasn't performing. She wasn't worrying about saying the right thing or being the right version of herself. She was just here. "Thank you," she said suddenly. Nathan glanced at her. "For what?" "For not correcting me right away, for buying me dinner, for reminding me what it feels like to just be myself. Thank you for getting in the wrong car." They pulled up to her building, and Maya felt a small pang of disappointment that the evening was ending. Nathan put the car in park and turned to face her. "Can I see you again?" he asked. "Yes," Maya said immediately, "but I should warn you, I'm probably going to overthink this entire evening as soon as I get upstairs." "Good, me too. We can compare notes next time." She laughed and pulled out her phone, now charged enough to turn on, and they exchanged numbers. Maya lingered with her hand on the door handle, not quite ready to leave. "Nathan?" "Yeah?" "I'm really glad I got in the wrong car, too." He smiled, and it was the kind of smile that made her think about diving into deep water again. "Good night, Maya." She got out of the car and walked to her building, turning back once to wave. Nathan waited until she was safely inside before driving away, and Maya stood in her lobby for a long moment, feeling like she'd just stepped out of a dream and wasn't quite ready to wake up. Upstairs in her apartment, she kicked off her heels and checked her phone. 17 missed calls and 23 texts, mostly from her friend demanding to know what happened with Mark. Maya typed out a quick response. "It didn't work out, but I'm okay. Actually, I'm better than okay. I'll call you tomorrow." Then she opened a new message to Nathan. "I'm overthinking it already. Your turn." His response came immediately. "Me too. Told you we'd be terrible at this together." Maya smiled and fell back on her couch, still in her dress, feeling more awake than she had in months. The next 2 weeks unfolded like a story Maya hadn't known she was waiting for. Nathan texted her the next morning. Nothing profound, just a simple, "Good morning, hope you're not overthinking too hard." And that became their rhythm. Text messages that turned into phone calls, that turned into long conversations about everything and nothing. They saw each other 4 times in those 2 weeks. Coffee on Sunday morning at a tiny place neither of them had been before. A walk through the botanical gardens on Wednesday evening after Maya finished work. Lunch at a food truck festival on Saturday where they sampled everything and Nathan won her a ridiculous stuffed elephant from a carnival game. Dinner at his place the following Friday, where he cooked, badly but with enough enthusiasm to make her laugh. With every meeting, Maya learned more about him. He was thoughtful and funny and surprisingly good at listening. He asked questions that made her think. He remembered small details she mentioned in passing. He made her feel like she mattered in a way that had nothing to do with her accomplishments or her resume. But there was something he wasn't telling her. She could feel it in the pauses, in the way he'd deflect certain questions about his work, in the careful way he avoided talking about his life before they met. Maya told herself it didn't matter. Everyone had secrets. Everyone had parts of themselves they kept private. But as she started to fall for him, and she was falling, there was no denying it, the not knowing started to feel like a distance she couldn't quite cross. It was her friend Sophie who forced the issue. They were having lunch on a Tuesday, their first real conversation since the disastrous blind date with Mark. Sophie had been apologetic and confused, and Maya had been forgiving but firm. No more setups. I'm actually seeing someone. Tell me everything, Sophie demanded over salads neither of them was really eating. So Maya did. She told her about getting in the wrong car, about Nathan letting her talk, about dinner and walks and the feeling of finally meeting someone who saw her as more than a collection of achievements. Wait, Sophie interrupted. Nathan Reed? That's his name? Yes. Why? Sophie was already pulling out her phone, typing rapidly. Nathan Reed, tech, sold his company. Her eyes went wide. Oh my God, Maya! What? Sophie turned her phone around. On the screen was a Forbes article from 3 years ago. Tech wonderkind Nathan Reed sells infrastructure startup for $800 million. Maya stared at the headline, then at the photo beneath it. Nathan, her Nathan, the man who'd cooked her dinner in jeans and a t-shirt, standing in a suit at some conference, looking serious and successful and like someone who existed in a completely different world than hers. $800 million, Sophie said slowly. Maya, you're dating a billionaire. I'm not. Maya couldn't finish the sentence. Her mind was racing, replaying every conversation, every moment, looking for the part where he'd lied to her. But he hadn't. He'd told her he built a tech company. He'd told her he sold it. He'd said he was trying to figure out what mattered now that he could do anything. He just hadn't mentioned the $800 million part. Did you know? Sophie asked. No, I mean, I knew he sold his company, but I didn't know it was. She gestured at the phone helplessly. This. Maya, this changes everything. Does it? Of course it does. Sophie scrolled through more articles. He's on the board of 3 major companies. He's invested in like 20 startups. There are entire profiles about his investment strategy. And you've been dating him for 2 weeks without knowing any of this? Maya felt something cold settling in her stomach. He said he wanted to tell me eventually. I thought he meant he had some normal thing in his past, not this. You need to talk to him. I know. But Maya didn't call him right away. She went back to her office and spent the afternoon Googling Nathan Reed, falling down a rabbit hole of articles and interviews and profiles. She learned that he'd started his company at 25, bootstrapped it for 5 years before taking on investors, and sold it at 32 for an amount that made her dizzy. She learned that he'd largely dropped out of public life after the sale, making rare appearances at charity events but turning down most interview requests. She learned that he was known for being private, careful, and, according to one profile, almost pathologically allergic to the spotlight. She also learned that there were a lot of people who wanted pieces of him. Investment requests, partnership proposals, people who saw him as a means to an end rather than as a person. By the time she closed her laptop, her head was spinning with questions. Why hadn't he told her? What did this mean for them? Could they even have a normal relationship when he existed in this entire other stratosphere of wealth and influence? And underneath all of that, did he think she was after his money? That thought made her feel sick. She'd spent 2 weeks falling for someone who made her laugh and asked good questions and seemed genuinely interested in who she was. She'd never once thought about money or status or what he could do for her. But now, knowing the truth, would he believe that? Her phone buzzed. "Dinner tomorrow? There's something I want to talk to you about." Maya stared at the message. So he was going to tell her, finally. She typed back, "Actually, can we talk tonight instead? Your place?" His response came quickly. "Of course. 7 o'clock? See you then." The drive to Nathan's apartment felt longer than it was. Maya had been there once before, for the dinner where he'd cooked badly and made her laugh. She'd noticed it was nice, clean, minimalist, with good art on the walls, but she hadn't thought much about it. Now, knowing what she knew, she saw it differently. The building was in one of the most expensive neighborhoods in the city. The doorman greeted her by name. The elevator was the kind that required a key card to access certain floors. Nathan opened the door before she could knock, as if he'd been watching for her. He smiled, but it faded when he saw her expression. "Hey," he said, "you okay?" "Can I come in?" "Of course." She walked past him into the apartment. The space was exactly as she remembered, comfortable but not ostentatious, lived in but carefully maintained. Like everything about Nathan, it was understated in a way that probably cost a fortune. "I know," Maya said, turning to face him. Nathan closed the door slowly. "Know what?" "About the company, the sale, the $800 million. She watched his face carefully. "My friend looked you up, showed me the articles." Something flickered across his expression, not quite guilt, not quite relief, something more complicated. "I was going to tell you tonight," he said quietly. "Were you?" "Yes. I've been trying to find the right moment, but there never seemed to be one, and then the longer I waited, the harder it got, and—" He stopped. "I'm sorry. I should have told you sooner." "Why didn't you?" Nathan moved to the windows overlooking the city. "Because I wanted you to know me first, just me, not the articles or the money or what people think I can do for them. I wanted to see if we could actually connect without all of that in the way." "You mean you were testing me?" "No," he turned back to her, and his expression was earnest. "I wasn't testing you, Maya. I was protecting myself." The honesty in his voice made her pause. "From what?" "From people who only see dollar signs, from relationships that are transactional instead of real, from—" He ran a hand through his hair. "I've dated people who were interested in Nathan Reed, the success story, the guy with the portfolio and the connections and the bank account. And every time I'd try to figure out if they actually liked me or just what I represented. It made me paranoid and guarded and miserable. So when I got in your car that night, you treated me like a driver, like someone who was just doing their job and deserved basic kindness. And then at dinner, you talked to me like a person, not a prospect. And I realized it had been years since anyone had done that." He took a step toward her. "I know I should have told you sooner. I know keeping it from you was wrong. But I wasn't playing games with you, Maya. I was just trying to have something real for once." Maya felt her anger softening, but the hurt remained. "I fell for you thinking you were someone else." "No, you didn't. You fell for exactly who I am. The money doesn't change that." "Does it? Nathan, you're a billionaire. I'm a marketing director who still has student loans. We exist in completely different worlds. We're standing in the same room right now." "You know what I mean." He crossed the space between them until they were only a few feet apart. "I know the money complicates things. I know people will make assumptions about us, about why you're with me. I know my life is different in ways that might be hard to navigate, but none of that changes how I feel about you." "How do you feel about me?" terrified, he said honestly, because I haven't felt this way about anyone in a very long time, and I'm terrified of messing it up, of you deciding that the money is too much baggage, of losing you before we even really get started. Maya felt something crack in her chest. I'm terrified too. Of what? Of people thinking I'm with you for the wrong reasons, of not being able to just be normal, of feeling like I'm constantly being measured against some standard I don't even understand. She looked at him. And I'm terrified that maybe you kept this from me because some part of you doesn't trust me, because you think I might be like all those other people who only see the money. I don't think that. How can you be sure? Because of the way you looked at me when we had dinner, because you argued with me about splitting the check, because you've never once asked me what I do for work beyond that first conversation, because he reached out and took her hands. Because you got into what you thought was a stranger's car and you were kind to him anyway. That's who you are, Maya. Money didn't factor into it at all. She wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to believe him. But there was still a voice in her head whispering doubts, pointing out all the ways this could go wrong. I don't know how to do this, she admitted. I don't know how to date someone whose life is so different from mine. Then we figure it out together, one day at a time, one conversation at a time. Nathan squeezed her hands. I'm not asking you to be okay with everything right now. I'm just asking you not to walk away before we even try. Maya looked at him, really looked at him, at the man who'd driven her to a restaurant because she'd asked, who'd had dinner with her because he wanted to, who'd spent 2 weeks getting to know her without any of the noise that came with his money. The man who was looking at her now with vulnerability written across his face, waiting for her to make a choice. I need you to promise me something, she said. Anything. No more secrets. No more waiting for the right moment. If there's something important, you tell me, even if it's hard, even if you're scared. I promise. And I need you to believe that I'm here for you, not the money, not the connections. You, just you. I do believe that, Nathan said softly. I think I've believed that since the moment you got in my car and started talking to me like I was human. You are human. I know, but it's easy to forget that when the first thing everyone sees is a dollar amount. Maya stepped closer, closing the last bit of distance between them. I see you, she said. I've seen you from the beginning. That doesn't change just because I know about your bank account now. So you're not running away? I'm terrified, Maya admitted. But no, I'm not running away. Nathan's relief was visible. He pulled her into a hug, and Maya let herself relax into it, feeling the solid warmth of him, the steadiness she'd been drawn to from the start. We're going to be terrible at this, she mumbled against his shoulder. Probably, he agreed, but at least we'll be terrible together. They stood there for a long time, holding each other, letting the truth of everything settle around them. When they finally pulled apart, Nathan smiled at her. So, now that you know everything, do you want to stay for dinner? I promised to cook better than last time. That's a low bar. I'm aware. Maya laughed, and it felt like relief. Okay, but I'm helping this time. Deal. They moved to the kitchen, and as Nathan pulled out ingredients and Maya chopped vegetables, she felt something shift. The money was still there, it would always be there, a reality they'd have to navigate, but it didn't feel like a wall between them anymore. It was just another thing they'd figure out together, one conversation at a time. Can I ask you something? Nathan said as he stirred sauce on the stove. Always. What made you look me up? Today, I mean. Why now? Maya thought about it. My friend asked your name, and I realized I'd been deliberately not Googling you. Like I knew there was more to the story, but I didn't want to know yet, because knowing would change things. And did it change things? She looked at him, at the careful way he was watching her, waiting for her answer. Yes, she said honestly, but not in the way I thought it would. It just made me realize how brave you were being, letting me get to know you without any of the armor, and how scared you must have been that I'd run when I found out. I was scared. I still am. Me too. She set down the knife and turned to face him. But I think being scared together is better than being safe alone. Nathan crossed the kitchen and kissed her. It was their first kiss. Somehow they'd made it 2 weeks without this, both of them hesitant, both of them afraid of moving too fast. But now it felt right, like a promise being made and received. When they pulled apart, Maya laughed breathlessly. "What?" Nathan asked. "I just realized I kissed a billionaire." "I'm going to revoke that information if you keep saying things like that. Too late, it's out there now." They finished making dinner together, and it was better than the last time, still not perfect, but better. They ate at the kitchen counter, talking about everything and nothing, learning each other in this new context where all the cards were on the table. "What happens now?" Maya asked as they cleaned up. "Now we just live, date, figure out how to navigate this." Nathan dried a plate and set it aside. "I know people are going to be curious about us once word gets out. There might be attention, questions. It won't be easy." "I'm not looking for easy. I'm looking for real." "Then you're in the right place." Later, as Nathan walked her to the door, Maya felt something settle that had been uncertain before. The truth was out, and they were still standing. That had to count for something. "Thank you," Nathan said as she pulled on her jacket. "For what?" "For not running, for staying, for giving this a chance. Thank you for trusting me with the truth." He kissed her goodnight, and Maya drove home feeling like she'd just navigated something significant. The relationship was still new, still fragile, but it was real. And after everything she'd been through, real was all she wanted. The next month was an education in navigating two worlds at once. Nathan had been right. Once they went public with their relationship, a gradual process that started with them being photographed together at a charity gala, people were curious, very curious. Maya's phone blew up with messages from old acquaintances she hadn't heard from in years, suddenly eager to reconnect. Her LinkedIn profile got hundreds of new connection requests. A gossip blog ran a piece speculating about their relationship with a headline that made her cringe. Her inbox filled with requests for coffee dates and informational interviews from people who'd never shown interest in her before. It was exhausting and invasive, and exactly what Nathan had warned her about. "I'm sorry," he said when she showed him the blog post. They were at his place again. It had become their default refuge from the world. "I can have my attorney send a cease and desist." "For what? Speculating about who I am? That's not illegal, just annoying." Maya tossed her phone aside. "I just hate that people think they know me based on who I'm dating." "Welcome to my life for the last 3 years." "How do you deal with it?" "I ignore it most of the time, and when I can't ignore it, I remember that the people who matter know the truth." It helped, but it was still hard. Maya found herself second-guessing everything: what she wore, what she said, whether people were being genuine or just trying to get close to Nathan through her. She hated the paranoia, hated how the money and attention changed the way people looked at her. But through it all, Nathan was steady. He never made her feel like her concerns were trivial. He never acted like the attention was something she should just accept. He validated her frustration while helping her find strategies to cope. They established boundaries: no phones during dinner, one night a week where they stayed in and avoided all social obligations, a rule that they wouldn't read what people were saying about them online, a commitment to checking in with each other regularly about how they were feeling. It wasn't perfect, but it was working. The harder adjustment was more subtle. Nathan's life operated on a different scale than Maya's, and sometimes that gap felt impossible to bridge. When he suggested a weekend trip to Napa, she had to explain that she couldn't just take time off with 2 days' notice. When he mentioned wanting to donate a significant amount to her favorite charity, she had to tell him it made her uncomfortable, like he was trying to solve problems with money instead of presents. They had their first real fight 6 weeks in, over something that seemed small but wasn't. Nathan had bought her a laptop, top of the line, more expensive than anything she'd ever owned, after she'd mentioned her old one was acting up. He presented it casually, like it was no big deal, just a practical solution to a problem. Maya stared at the sleek silver machine and felt something cold in her stomach. "I can't accept this," she said. Nathan looked genuinely confused. "Why not? Your old computer was dying. You said you could barely get through a workday without it freezing. That doesn't mean you get to just buy me a new one." "Why not? I have the money. You need the computer. It's that simple." "It's not simple, Nathan. It feels like—" She struggled to articulate it. "Like you're trying to fix me. Like my problems are something you can just throw money at and make go away." "That's not what I'm doing." "Then what are you doing?" "I'm trying to help. You're stressed about work, and your computer is making it worse, and I have the resources to solve that problem. I don't understand why that's bad." "Because I need to feel like I can take care of myself. Because accepting expensive gifts from you makes me feel like those people you were scared of, the ones who only see you as a bank account." That made Nathan stop. "You're nothing like them." "But how do you know? How do either of us know where the line is between accepting normal relationship things and becoming dependent on your money?" They stood in his living room, the laptop sitting on the coffee table between them like evidence of something neither of them wanted to name. "I don't know," Nathan admitted finally. "I don't know where that line is. I'm used to solving problems with resources. It's how I've operated for years. But you're right. This isn't just about the computer, is it?" "No. It's about me needing to feel like you're my equal, even when we both know I'm not. Not financially, anyway." "You are my equal," Nathan said firmly. "The money doesn't change that." "Easy for you to say when you have it." "Maya, I'm not saying this to hurt you. I'm saying it because we need to figure out how to navigate this, or it's going to destroy us." She sank on the couch, suddenly exhausted. "I love that you want to help. I love that you think about me and try to make my life easier. But I also need to feel like I'm not some charity case you're taking care of." Nathan sat down beside her, careful to maintain some distance. "What do you need from me?"
I need you to ask before you solve. I need you to let me struggle sometimes, even when you could make it easier. I need—" She paused, trying to find the right words. "I need to feel like you're with me, not above me." "I've never felt above you." "I know, but the money creates that dynamic whether we want it to or not." She looked at him. "Can we return the laptop?" "Yes, of course." He reached for her hand. "I'm sorry, I wasn't thinking about how it would feel from your side. I just saw a problem and wanted to fix it." "I know, and I love that about you. I just need us to fix things together, not have you fix things for me." "Together," Nathan repeated. "I can do that." They returned the laptop the next day, and Maya bought a refurbished one within her budget. It wasn't as nice as the one Nathan had chosen, and it still froze occasionally, but it was hers. She'd earned it, and somehow that made all the difference. But the argument had been good for them. It forced them to talk about the uncomfortable realities of their relationship, the power dynamics, the assumptions, the ways money could poison even the best intentions. they came out of it with better communication and clearer boundaries. They also started spending more time in Maya's world. Instead of always meeting at Nathan's place or going to expensive restaurants, they hung out at her apartment, ordered takeout, went to movies and bookstores and farmers markets, places where Nathan's wealth didn't matter, where they could just be two people navigating a relationship. Maya introduced him to her friends, which was its own kind of test. Sophie was wary at first, protective of Maya in a way that made Nathan work to win her over. He did it with patience and humor, never pulling rank, never acting like her concern was unwarranted. By the end of the evening, Sophie pulled Maya aside and said, "Okay, I get it. He's good." Nathan introduced Maya to his world more slowly, more carefully. A small dinner with his business partner and his wife, coffee with his attorney, eventually a charity board meeting where Maya saw him in full CEO mode, confident, commanding, making decisions that involved millions of dollars like it was nothing. It was intimidating seeing that side of him, but it was also illuminating. She understood better why he valued their quiet moments, why he'd been so drawn to her treating him like a regular person. In his professional life, he was always on, always performing a role. With her, he could just be Nathan. 2 months in, they had their first real success as a couple, navigating a weekend with Nathan's mother. "She's going to love you," Nathan promised on the drive to meet her. "You don't know that." "I do. You're smart, funny, genuine. You don't take my money seriously. What's not to love?" "The fact that I accidentally carjacked her son?" "That's exactly the kind of thing she'll find charming." He was right. Elizabeth Reed was warm, sharp, and clearly delighted that her son had found someone who made him happy. She asked Maya thoughtful questions, told embarrassing stories about Nathan's childhood, and never once made Maya feel like she was being evaluated. Over dinner, Elizabeth leaned across the table and said, "I'm glad he met you. He's been lost for a while since he sold the company. It's good to see him found again." "I think we found each other," Maya replied. Elizabeth smiled. "Even better." That night, as they drove back to the city, Nathan reached over and took Maya's hand. "Thank you," he said. "For what?" "For being exactly who you are, for not trying to impress her or be someone you're not, for just being you. I like being me when I'm with you, even when it's scary. Especially when it's scary." They drove in comfortable silence for a while, and Maya felt something settle in her chest. They were figuring it out. Not perfectly, not without stumbles, but they were figuring it out together, and that was enough. We're almost at the end of Maya and Nathan's journey. Drop a comment below and let us know. What would you do if you accidentally got into the wrong car? We'd love to hear your stories. Stay with us for the beautiful ending. A year into their relationship, Maya and Nathan found their rhythm. It wasn't always smooth. They still had arguments about money and boundaries, still navigated the occasional awkward moment when someone recognized Nathan in public, but they'd built something real beneath all of it, something that felt solid. It was Nathan who suggested the idea on a Tuesday evening when they were cooking dinner together in his kitchen. "I've been thinking," he said, chopping vegetables with more confidence than he'd had when they first met, "about what to do with the money, what actually matters." "And?" Maya prompted, stirring sauce on the stove. "I want to start a foundation, not just writing checks to establish charities, but building something from the ground up, something focused on economic mobility, helping people who are trying to build something but don't have access to resources or networks." Maya set down her spoon and turned to face him. "That's a big undertaking." "I know, and I can't do it alone." He looked at her. "I want you to help me build it." "Nathan, not as an employee, as a partner. You understand marketing, strategy, how to communicate what matters. You understand what it's like to work your way up without a safety net. You'd bring perspective I don't have." "I have a job." "I know,
I'm not asking you to quit tomorrow. I'm asking you to think about it, about building something together that actually matters." Maya felt something stir in her chest, the same feeling she'd had when Nathan asked her what she wanted, not what she should want. The same feeling of possibility that had been dormant for so long she'd almost forgotten what it felt like. "Can I think about it?" she asked. "Of course. Take all the time you need." But Maya didn't need much time. The idea took root immediately, growing stronger every day. She found herself researching economic mobility programs during her lunch breaks, sketching out ideas in the margins of her work notebooks, imagining what it could look like to build something meaningful from scratch. 2 weeks later, she gave her notice at work. Her boss was shocked. "You're leaving to start a nonprofit? Maya, do you know how competitive this field is? How hard it is to get something like this off the ground?" "I know, but I also know I'll regret it if I don't try." "This is about the boyfriend, isn't it? The billionaire." Maya met her boss's eyes steadily. "This is about me choosing something that matters over something that just pays well. Nathan's support makes it possible, but it's not why I'm doing it." "If you say so." But Maya knew the truth. She was doing this because Nathan asked her what she wanted, and she'd finally figured out the answer. She wanted to build something real, something that helped people the way she'd once needed help, something that mattered beyond quarterly reports and market share. The foundation took shape slowly over the next 6 months. They rented a small office space, hired a lean team, developed programs focused on providing microloans, mentorship, and resources to entrepreneurs from underserved communities. Maya threw herself into the work with an intensity that surprised her, discovering skills she didn't know she had. Nathan was right there beside her, not hovering or taking over, but providing support and expertise when she needed it. They learned to work together, to argue productively, to challenge each other in ways that made the work better. They also learned that building something together strengthened their relationship in unexpected ways. Seeing Nathan in his element, strategic, thoughtful, generous, made Maya fall deeper. And Nathan watched Maya come alive in the work, her passion and intelligence on full display, and felt more certain than ever that getting into that car with her had been the best decision of his life. They had their first successful loan recipient after 3 months, a woman named Carmen, who wanted to open a bakery in her neighborhood but couldn't get traditional financing. Maya worked with her personally, helping develop her business plan, connecting her with resources, cheering her on through the inevitable setbacks. When Carmen's bakery opened 6 months later, Maya and Nathan attended the ribbon cutting. They stood at the back of the crowd, watching Carmen cut the ribbon with tears streaming down her face, and Nathan leaned over to whisper, "This is what it's for, all of it, this moment right here." Maya nodded, too emotional to speak. That night, back at Nathan's apartment, which had slowly become their apartment as Maya's things migrated over one drawer at a time, they sat on the couch with takeout from Carmen's bakery spread across the coffee table. "I've been thinking," Nathan said, in the same tone he'd used when he first suggested the foundation. "That's dangerous," Maya teased. "I'm serious. I've been thinking about us, about how far we've come since that night you got in my car. When you carjacked me, you mean." "Best carjacking of my life," he said, echoing their old joke, but his expression was serious. "Nathan, I know we're still figuring things out. I know we're still learning to navigate my money and your independence and building something together, but I also know that I love you." Maya's breath caught. They hadn't said those words yet, both of them holding back, both of them scared. "I love you too, even though you let me boss you around for 10 minutes before telling me I'd gotten into the wrong car. Especially because of that." "Why especially?" "Because in those 10 minutes, you showed me exactly who you were. Someone who was struggling but still kind. Someone who was exhausted but still trying. Someone real." He took her hand. "I spent years being lonely in rooms full of people, being reduced to a net worth by everyone I met.
And then you got into my car and treated me like a human being, and I realized what I'd been missing. I was having the worst day of my life, Maya said, and you made it better without even trying. That's what I want to keep doing, making your days better, building things together, figuring out this weird, complicated life we're creating. Me too. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, the weight of the words hanging between them. There's something else, Nathan said. What? I've been thinking about the foundation, about how it's becoming something bigger than either of us expected, and I think we need to make it official. It is official. We have paperwork and everything. I mean, with us. I want to do this together, really together, as partners in every sense of the word. Maya's heart started beating faster. Nathan, I'm not proposing, not yet. I know we're still figuring things out, and I don't want to rush you. He squeezed her hand. But I want you to know that's where I'm headed. That's what I want. A future where we're building everything together. The foundation, a life, a family, someday, if you want that. All of it. I want that too, Maya whispered. It terrifies me, but I want it. Good. We can be terrified together. They kissed, and it felt like a promise being made and received. Not perfect, not without complications, but real and solid and right. 2 years after Maya got into the wrong car, they threw a party for the foundation's first anniversary. It was held at the same restaurant where they'd had their first real date, in a private room filled with the people they'd helped, the team they'd built, and the friends and family who'd supported them along the way. Maya stood at the front of the room, looking out at the faces gathered there, and felt overwhelmed by how much had changed. When I started this journey, I was lost. I had a successful career that felt empty, a life that looked perfect from the outside but felt hollow on the inside. And then I made a mistake. I got into the wrong car. Laughter rippled through the room. Nathan, standing beside her, smiled. But that mistake led me here, to this work, to this community, to a life that actually means something. She looked at Nathan, and to a partner who asked me what I wanted and then helped me build it. In my defense, she did technically carjack me. More laughter. But she was right. Getting into that car was the best mistake either of us ever made, because it led us to this, to building something that matters, to helping people who need it, to creating opportunities that wouldn't have existed otherwise. He raised his glass. To mistakes that turn out right, to wrong cars and right people, to Maya, who's taught me that the best things in life can't be bought, they have to be built. To building, Maya echoed, raising her own glass. To building, the room chorused back. Later, when the party had wound down and they were helping clean up, Sophie pulled Maya aside. "Remember when you ditched Mark on that blind date?" asked Sophie. Vividly. "I thought you were insane, but you weren't. You were brave." Sophie hugged her. "I'm glad you got into the wrong car." "Me too." Nathan found her a few minutes later, standing by the windows looking out at the city. He wrapped his arms around her from behind, and she leaned back against him. "What are you thinking about?" he asked. "About how none of this was in my plan, the foundation, us, any of it. How all my careful planning and striving led me to a place where I was miserable, and one impulsive decision led me here. Regret it? Not even a little bit." They stood there for a while, watching the city lights blur and sharpen through the glass. Then Nathan said, "Remember when I said I wasn't proposing yet?" Maya turned in his arms to face him. "Yes, I'm reconsidering that timeline." "Are you?" He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. "Maya Patterson, will you marry the guy whose car you accidentally hijacked?" She laughed through sudden tears. "That's the worst proposal speech I've ever heard." "Is that a no?" "That's a yes, you idiot. Yes, yes, of course yes." He slipped the ring on her finger and they kissed while the city sparkled around them. And Maya thought about how strange life was, how one exhausted decision, one random car, one moment of not correcting a misunderstanding led to this. She'd gotten into the wrong car, and he'd let her stay. And somehow, against all odds and logic, they'd built something right.
Thank you so much for staying with us through Maya and Nathan's journey. If this story touched you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more emotional stories like this one. And we'd love to know, what's the best wrong turn you've ever taken? Drop your story in the comments below. Sometimes the wrong car leads you exactly where you need to be. Until next time, keep believing in beautiful accidents and second chances.